Hi, welcome to Daily Readings with Pastor Nate. Today we're on Matthew chapter 8. If you haven't done so already, please pause the video, say a quick prayer, and read that chapter in your favorite translation. I'll also include a link in the description below for those of you who'd like to read it online, so please do that now. Okay, now that we're through the Sermon on the Mount, the narration becomes a bit more episodic. Instead of having one long thing where it's sort of just staying with one thing, we have a bunch of little things happening very quickly. In fact, there's 6 sections crammed into this one chapter, and I want to touch on all of them. So I'm going to try to say something worth saying in 2 minutes for each of these 6 things. So the first thing that happens is Jesus healing a man with leprosy. And the thing that I want to focus on in this first little episode is how Jesus approaches this, right? He can heal however he wants. He can heal with a word. He can heal with nothing at all. He can heal from a distance, as we'll see in a moment. But he chooses, when the leper is in front of him, to touch the leper and to remove his skin disease with physical touch. And that's incredibly important because leprosy at that time in that place, it changed your whole life. It forced you outside of the community. In order to prevent your disease from spreading to other people, you literally had to live outside of town, and people wouldn't go near you. And this person may very well not have been touched physically since getting sick. It could have been years since anybody had touched them. And Jesus reaches out a hand and touches the leper and takes away the illness. And not only is he taking away the illness, not only is he healing that physical disease, he's also taking away the loneliness. He's taking away the isolation. He's taking away this sense of being unfit to be around other people. And what a beautiful image that is for us, because I think there are times in all of our lives where we feel untouchable, we feel unworthy, we feel like outcasts, we feel like we're on our own or isolated. And Jesus has no problem stepping into those situations, even when there's a real threat, right? This person has an actual infectious disease, and that doesn't stop Jesus from stepping into that situation and placing a hand on that person and showing compassion, showing love, even as he exercises his authority to make a change in that person's life. So whatever's going on in your life, if you feel like you're untouchable, Jesus is ready and willing to touch you. The second section of this chapter is about a centurion who comes to Jesus for help with a healing. And this is really strange in a way, because Jesus is this decidedly Jewish messianic figure, and here you have this Roman centurion. The Romans were an occupying army, and this officer is coming to Jesus for help. It's kind of like if America conquered Mexico, like if we just rolled our army into Mexico and conquered it, and then one of the captains or majors in our army went and found this Mexican religious figure living out in the middle of nowhere on the edge of the land that we had conquered, and said, "Hey, I need your help." That's basically what's going on here. You have this Roman officer going to this Jewish religious figure who's out in the sticks of the Roman Empire, and he says, "Hey, I need your help." And Jesus is willing to help him. Jesus does help him. And along with that, he also has this saying about how people from the east and the west are going to come and join in this banquet feast. And we mentioned a few days ago how John is starting to lay the foundation for a new people of God. And Matthew is so intentional about connecting Jesus' ministry with the Old Testament and with traditional Jewish faith. And we see him do it again just a few more verses later. I think it's verse 17. He quotes Isaiah and connects Jesus' ministry to the Old Testament that way once again. But even in the midst of being so purposeful about drawing that connection, he's also showing that Jesus is building a new people. Jesus is establishing a new people of God. And Jesus says himself in his own words here that these other people are coming in and that the children are going to be turned out. And he's talking about this shift from ethnic Jews being the people of God to those who are answering the call being the people of God. And we saw that with John, and Jesus is making that just as clear now. He's saying, listen, this Roman who has faith, who has belief, who has trust, is being invited in, is being called in. Well, the people who should be at the banquet, the religious leaders of this time are going to be turned away. And that's something that we should think about. That's something that should be cause for some self-inspection. We are the religious people. If you're a churchgoer, if you consider yourself a Christian, we are the religious people of our day. In a real sense, we are sort of the scribes and the Pharisees of our day. And if we just believe that because we're Christians, because we're churchgoers, we're okay, well, we need to take verses like this a little bit more seriously, maybe. And it's not the ones who have grown up with it who are set. It's the ones who are answering these calls. And Jesus says that again here. The next section after that, Jesus heals many. He goes to Peter's house. He heals Peter's mother or mother-in-law, and people are brought to him to be healed. And there's not even any explanation of who they are or what they were healed of, really. Just Jesus healed people. And again, this should be an encouragement for us, because no matter what we're struggling with, no matter what kind of illness we have, no matter what kind of uncleanness we need to be cleaned of, Jesus is able to do that. And he doesn't discriminate against these people. It doesn't say whether or not they're Jews or Gentiles. It doesn't say whether they're men or women. It doesn't say how ceremonially clean they were by the Jewish law. People are coming to him and he's healing them. And no matter where we're coming from, no matter what we've been through, no matter what our background is or how unclean or how unworthy we may feel, Jesus is available to us. And I've said before that he doesn't always provide the exact answer that we're looking for. And we'll see a little bit more of that at the end of this chapter, but he is always available to us. We can always come and bring our burdens, bring our struggles, bring our brokenness to him. And he does provide healing. Maybe not the specific healing that we're looking for, but he does provide restoration. The next thing is an interaction. Jesus is getting ready to leave. He's been healing at Peter's house and the crowds are getting big. He says, okay, we're going to move across the lake here. And a couple of people come and they're interested in following. And I talked a little bit yesterday about how sometimes we have this used car salesperson mentality about the gospel, and we just want to convince people how great it is and how easy it is and how free it is. And that is not how Jesus approaches it at all. These people come to Jesus and, hey, we want to follow you. And he doesn't say, okay, great, come along. It's going to be easy and perfect and everything's going to be awesome. He begins to tell them how difficult it's going to be. Foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. He is very intentional, Jesus is, about laying out the cost of following him. Jesus never presents a relationship with him. Jesus never presents following his calls as something that's going to be quick and easy. In fact, he's very purposeful about telling people there is a cost to this. And if you want to be my follower, if you want to be my disciple, if you want to be in intimate relationship with me, you have to be ready to pay that cost. And he wants us to consider that as we enter into this relationship. And if we're not willing to pay the cost, then it's okay for us to turn around. And if you're listening to this and you're not sure if you're ready to pay the cost, don't let that stop you from reading, from watching these videos, from going to church or Bible study. Keep looking at it, because I promise the more you look into it, the more you'll realize that cost is 100% worth paying. Don't let that discourage you, but be aware of it. Jesus doesn't sugarcoat that there's a cost to following him, and I'm not going to either. And the scripture certainly doesn't. After that, we're into our last of these 6 sections, and Jesus casts out demons from 2 dangerous people. And I said before that prayers aren't always answered the way we want them to. We come to Jesus sometimes hoping to be healed, and either we don't get the healing that we're expecting, or it happens in a way that we weren't looking for. That's kind of what happens here. Jesus casts out demons from these people, but he sends the demons into pigs, and the pigs rush down the hill and they all die. And the villagers come out and they see all these dead pigs, and they're kind of like, Jesus, what the heck, man? They actually ask him to leave. The answer to prayer, these people wanted these dangerous demon-possessed men to not be dangerous demon-possessed men anymore, or at the very least didn't want them right here outside of their town. But the answer to prayer happens in a way that is not what they were hoping for, not what they were looking for. And a lot of their livestock are dead as a result. And their response is very understandable. Like, Jesus, you just killed a whole bunch of my pigs. Can you please move on to another town? We're kind of scared to see what's going to happen next. And I think that that's something that we should think about in our own lives. We come to Jesus looking for things, looking for healing, looking for restoration, looking for hope. And sometimes the answers are so plain, and all we have to do is remember to give thanks for them. But sometimes Jesus answers in really unexpected ways. And sometimes the healing, the restoration, the blessings, they have unexpected side effects. They have cost that we didn't anticipate. And when that happens, are we still grateful for the way that Jesus is working? I mean, he freed these guys from demon possession and got the demons to go, right? It's not like there's demon pigs running around. The demon pigs are all gone. They're dead. So Jesus has solved the problem, but instead of being met with gratitude, he's met with fear. And I wonder how often when Jesus acts in a way that's not what we were hoping for, we kind of respond the same way. So think about that as you're praying. Think about the cost of following Jesus and whether or not you're ready to pay it. And think about how he is so compassionate and ready to step into the mess of our lives, no matter where we came from, no matter who we are. He is able to bring healing, to bring wholeness, to bring hope. And he's offering that to us with compassion, no matter where we're at. So if this video is a blessing for you, please feel free to like it, feel free to share it, feel free to subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or just anything you'd like to share, you can put it in the comments here on the Facebook page, and I'll see you tomorrow for Matthew chapter 9.